It's something with sense, isn't it?
I thought it was WebWise, wasn't it?
I don't remember the name they had. I do remember they had one name and then they were disgraced because of activities.
It's like Blackwater, and any of these mercenaries. Sorry.
Yeah, and the idea was that they were passing BT customers. They had an experiment with BT customers without BT customers' consent, without their knowledge, to pass their traffic. I don't know if it was all the traffic or just the web surfing traffic.
I believe it was just the web surfing themselves. That's what I'm led to believe.
You know who created Form, by the way? Do you know who created the company? Where they came from?
Right, let's do.
BT, of course. They had a genius idea. We have all those packets running around. We might as well kind of make some money out of that. People's privacy being sold away.
They've got Form.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem I had, I don't know if you two gentlemen are aware of the case of RV Nimley, which was another tech crime, and I put that in inverted commas because this is a new world of crimes and allegations now that we've got this digital revolution that's well in the middle of a digital revolution. But I refer back to the case RV Nimley, which was the case of the iPod owner who was in a cinema filming latest movie releases and then uploading them to a tracker. Now, he was doing that for nothing but personal glory, whatever glory one can derive from uploading a camcorder movie to a tracker. But he got a jail sentence for his little episode in this type of tech crime. So what surprised me was that, I mean, we saw with BBC before, BBC Click, I believe, when they ran that botnet as part of an experiment and education, I put those words in inverted commas, and there was no charge there either. Now, I've spent a lot of time looking at the Section 1 of the Computer Misuse Act. That's one of the first pieces of legislation I would migrate to when these type of things come out. And certainly in the Form BT case, as far as I can tell, and this is just my opinion, but the criteria for a charge and for the offence to be complete is met perfectly by BT and Form. The users didn't have consent, didn't give consent to this intrusion, and but like I say, I don't know if there was any opinion either of you two had. But then we also have other offences here.
You mentioned the European Union's complaint. The European Union had to really go head to head against the British government over this issue because they apparently prioritize privacy a bit higher.
That's what I was about to say as well. The British government decided to look at BT and Form and go, yeah, we'll just let you get away with that, do nothing, just turn the other way. And the EU said, no, hang on a minute, you've got to do something about that. And they kind of reluctantly got dragged kicking and screaming to do something about it. Then the CPS decide, oh well, nothing to see here, move along. It's hardly a surprise, really.
We have another piece of legislation which I think applies to this case just as well, and also that there's more than enough evidence in respect of what's been put into the public domain alone to meet with a charging action. But that was the RIPA Act, section 1 of RIPA also covers, in my view, what's been going on here. Again, we get a statement from the CPS and where they've said, let me just see this, right, there is no evidence to suggest that anyone affected by the trial suffered any loss or harm as a result. Well, I would dispute that wholeheartedly. If the CPS want to go on any of the tech forums where disgruntled BT customers migrated after they realised what was going on, I think certainly there was a lot of harm. Even though BT claimed that users weren't uniquely identified, does that matter? People realistically expect that when they go online...
So you could be a bombardier, and you don't hear the screaming and see the blood, so you say, well, it's not identified, so it's fine.
And then the other interesting part was it mentions in the press release from the CPS that at present the available evidence is insufficient to provide a realistic prospect of conviction. So I would like to know how much more evidence the CPS require. They've got mainstream news reporting on it. They have tech experts explaining the technology. They have thousands of users up in arms and disgruntled at being part of this experiment without their knowledge. So I'm not quite sure how much more they needed. And certainly in the case of RV Nimley, which was why I brought it up, they seem to have all the public interest and evidence they needed in that respect to get a charge out of that gentleman and send him to jail for, I think it was 6 months. So,
well, I mean, obviously, I was going to say, what people think of as harm, or as, when they look at it, how many thousands of users hit blog posts and petitions and forums and said, look, if my ISP is in bed with Form, they will no longer be my ISP. They are jumping ship. Anything that Form touches, people are jumping ship. They're actually sending notices to their ISP saying, look, before I join up with you, do you have any connection to Form? Oh yes, we're in talks with them. That's fine. Screw you. I'll go somewhere else. So that suggests to me, whether there's any real harm or not, there's definitely a public perception that this is wrong, and a lot of people were actively making their choice of provider on whether or not the ISP is in bed with Form or not.
I mean, personally speaking, I have no problem with the technology at all, as long as it's opt-in. And I've got no problem with any type of directed marketing, any type of scheme like this that's run, as long as it's opt-in, not opt-out. And I think education and making the users aware of what they are opting into is important. And I think as long as it is part of a voluntary thing, then there's not an issue. I mean, there's nothing wrong. There might be some people who would find the Form technology very useful. There may well be. Sorry.
What I picked up from BT was, after the whole Form thing was. After the outcry about Form, was that they had stopped the trials, and that they were putting it aside and putting it on review, putting it on ice basically, until all the heat had died down. But what they didn't say was, we're abandoning Form. They just said, we'll look at it later. So I suspect that once all the heat has died down again, there will be a new company, which will suspiciously enough employ all the same Form people, all the same Form technology, based on the same offices as Form, with the same phone number and the same fax number, and even maybe in the same server. Who knows? But it'll be a completely different company.
2010, quite a few of them left Form. The Register had a report saying that Form was basically kind of falling apart. I don't really know of a new company, and I hadn't read any articles saying that they do gather in a new shell. There is this campaign called Deformed. I wonder if you've seen that. I cannot access some sites with BT, including my friend's site, because he checks your ISP, the IP addresses, and he gives you a thing saying your ISP is basically giving you a phone worm or whatever, and he's spying on you, and please get rid of your ISP to access my site. So some people actually go as far as doing that, and they basically block you from the site because you use an ISP that spies on you. But the company itself is probably just going to change name. I think it's very appealing to all sorts of companies, whether it's even Google or Facebook or whatever, to spy on you. And if it pays money, you can be sure eventually it will pass. It's just like the Digital Economy Act and things like that. You can resist that. You can have an outcry. But if the powerful people will insist that this is necessary, they usually eventually get their way.
Well, like I said, I've got no personal issue with the technology at all, as long as it's done on the basis of informing the customer knowledge. And I think that was maybe what the Form case highlighted more than anything else. It's the public's demand for transparency.
Imagine if some ISP set it up a la the Google model, because, I mean, essentially what Form is, it's advertising. It's about sending all of your web traffic through their servers, where they analyse what sites it is and keywords and whatever they monitor, and they target adverts on the screen and actually change the web. I mean, I design websites, and the idea that some third party is going to inject modifications onto a site that I build, that's another thing that annoys me. But that's what Form does. That's what it's all about. It's about targeted advertising a la Google. Now, what Google do is they say, well, okay, we're tracking all that, but we're giving you an excellent service free to use. But the condition is there's adverts and there's tracking and stuff like that. So imagine if there was an ISP who decided to go into bed with Form and say, we'll offer free broadband, unlimited free broadband. The condition is it's adverts, it's advert funded, and it's all Form adverts, targeted adverts, a la Google. but for an ISP.
I heard TalkTalk's going into into bed with the foreign people or something like that. Well, we do deep packet inspection, which in general is the same thing. So it could be some different company doing pretty much the same thing. And TalkTalk is bragging about low prices. Actually, one of